Sure, here's a 1,200-word original short story titled, Why Did You Bring Your Former Mother Here? Inspired by your prompt. It's an emotional, slightly mysterious story about family, memory, and reconciliation. Why did you bring your former mother here? The rain had been falling since dawn, steady and unrelenting, like the world itself was trying to wash away something it didn't want to remember. The old house at the edge of Hollow Creek was quiet except for the hiss of water against the roof and the occasional moan of the wind through the eaves. Mara stood in the doorway, dripping from the storm, her fingers trembling around the brass doorknob. The woman sitting in the parlor looked up from her chair, her eyes narrowing with disbelief and something sharper, fear. Why did you bring your former mother here? The woman demanded, her voice cutting through the silence like a blade. The words struck Mara like a slap. For a moment she couldn't speak. She just stood there, the echo of that strange phrase, former mother, ringing in her head. I had nowhere else to go, Mara stammered. You told me once that this house would always be my home. The older woman rose from her chair, her thin frame casting a long shadow in the dim lamplight. That was before, she said, her voice trembling. Before everything changed. You shouldn't have come back here, Mara. Not with her. Mara turned, confused, to the figure standing just behind her, a small, frail woman in a faded blue raincoat, her gray hair plastered to her forehead. She looked lost, bewildered, clutching a small leather satchel to her chest. She's my mother, Mara said softly. She's sick, I couldn't leave her alone. The older woman, Ruth, Mara's other mother, shook her head slowly. She may have been your mother once, she whispered, but she isn't anymore. Mara hadn't seen Ruth in 7 years. After the adoption papers were finalized, after the long, bitter fight for custody, Mara had sworn she'd never come back. But life had a way of undoing promises, of folding time in strange, cruel ways. Her biological mother, Evelyn, had been diagnosed with early-onset dementia just 2 months earlier. It started small, forgetting where she put her keys, repeating the same story at dinner, but it quickly grew worse. One morning she had called Mara in tears, saying she couldn't remember how to get home from the grocery store. Mara had quit her job, packed what little she owned, and driven across 3 states to care for her. But when the money ran out, and the landlord gave them notice, there was nowhere else to go, except the house in Hollow Creek. The house she once called home. Now, standing in its doorway, she realized how little she had understood of what she was stepping into. Please, Mara said, guiding Evelyn toward the fireplace. She just needs a place to rest. We'll be gone by morning. Ruth hesitated. Her eyes flicked between the two of them, Mara's anxious face, Evelyn's vacant one, and then she sighed. The guest room, she said finally. But don't let her wander. Mara helped Evelyn to the small bedroom at the end of the hall. It still smelled faintly of lavender and cedar, the way Ruth always kept her linens. Evelyn sat on the edge of the bed, her fingers tracing the pattern in the quilt. This place feels familiar, she murmured. Mara swallowed hard. You used to visit me here. Years ago. Before. She didn't finish. Evelyn's eyes had already drifted to the window, lost in the steady rhythm of the rain. Later that night, Mara found Ruth in the kitchen, sipping tea by the stove. The air between them was thick with everything they hadn't said. She doesn't even remember what happened, Mara said quietly. You could be kind to her. Ruth's jaw tightened. Kind, after what she did to you. She made mistakes, Mara admitted. But she's not that person anymore. She doesn't even know who she was. Ruth's eyes filled with something Mara couldn't quite name, anger, grief, maybe both. That's the problem, child. Forgetting doesn't erase what's been done. Mara looked away. You always told me forgiveness was a choice. It is, Ruth said. And I chose not to. The storm continued through the night. Around midnight, Mara awoke to the sound of footsteps in the hall. She rose quickly, heart pounding. Evelyn's door was open, her bed empty. Mara found her in the parlor, standing before the fireplace, staring at a photograph on the mantel. It was a picture of Mara at 8 years old, gap-toothed and smiling, with her arms wrapped around Ruth's waist. She took you from me, Evelyn whispered, her voice small, childlike. I tried to fight, but they said I wasn't fit. They said I couldn't keep you safe. Mara's throat ached. You hurt me, Mom, she said softly. You used to forget to feed me. You left me alone for days. I was scared. Evelyn's hands trembled. I know. I remember some of it. I remember the bottles, the pills, the nights I told myself I'd change in the morning. Her eyes filled with tears. But when I see you now, I still see my little girl. Mara felt something inside her break open, pain, yes, but also pity. She wrapped her arms around Evelyn and held her tightly. I'm here now, she whispered. That's enough. Dash dash dash. In the morning, Ruth found them both asleep on the couch, Evelyn's head resting on Mara's shoulder. She stood in the doorway, silent, her face unreadable. When Evelyn woke, she smiled faintly. You're Ruth, she said, as if testing the name. Ruth hesitated, then nodded. You took care of Mara, Evelyn said. Thank you. Ruth's lips parted, but no words came. For the rest of the day, the house seemed softer, quieter. The rain stopped, leaving the world smelling of wet earth and pine. Mara made tea while Ruth sat with Evelyn, watching her trace the rim of her cup with a shaking hand. Dash dash dash. That night, Ruth came to Mara's room. She asked me about the garden, Ruth said quietly. Said she remembered planting lilacs there with you. Mara smiled faintly. She used to tell me they meant renewal. Ruth leaned against the doorframe. She's fading fast, isn't she? Mara nodded. Some days she doesn't even remember me. But when she does, it's like the sun comes out. Ruth took a deep breath. I shouldn't have yelled yesterday, she said. When I called her your former mother. That wasn't fair. I was angry, but not at her. Not even at you. Then who? Mara asked. Ruth's eyes glistened. At myself. For thinking love could fix everything. For thinking I could erase where you came from. Mara stood, crossing the room to take Ruth's hand. You didn't.